Now we are, viewers, we are in fact getting some more breaking news. India has delivered a strong message at the United Nations stating that terrorism in all its forms and manifestations must be condemned without exception. India's permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Harish Parvathaneni, has said that no grievance, political cause or strategic calculation can ever justify terrorism. Asserting that a terrorist is a terrorist, he called on the international community to work together to eliminate the murderous ideology of terrorism and reject any attempt to rationalize or excuse terror acts. Let's in fact listen into that statement.
President, I will deliver a shortened statement and the full version would be submitted to the Secretariat for record. At the outset, we thank the co-facilitators, the PRs of Finland and Morocco for their valuable efforts in steering an extremely complex negotiation and for seeking to preserve consensus on an issue that must remain above politics. We acknowledge the role of all UN compact entities in supporting member states throughout this process. India called for adoption of the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism a decade before GCTS was first adopted in 2006. The absence of a universally agreed legal framework continues to hobble collective action against terrorism. The time has come to demonstrate political will to conclude the CCIT. India has been a victim of cross-border terrorism for decades. Our people have paid a terrible price, and this experience has shaped India's zero-tolerance approach. Irrespective of any grievance, political cause, or strategic calculation, terrorism in all its forms and manifestations must be condemned unequivocally. Mr. President, India would like to underline 6 key priorities. First, the international community must reject double standards in countering terrorism. Second, countering terror financing and strengthening implementation of FATF standards is vital. Third, misuse of new and emerging technologies by terrorists demands urgent attention. It is disheartening that the 9th GCTS review has no acceptable landing.
All right, let me go across to my colleague Atul Ranjan, who joins us on the broadcast for more on this. Atul, obviously India has been calling out terrorism in all its forms at all global forums, and this is yet another instance where we are seeing our Ambassador Harish actually list out how we need to condemn terrorism in all its forms.
Well, yes, India's permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Harish Parvathaneni, has, urged the global community to reject all sort of double standards and work collectively to eliminate terrorism, is what he has mentioned, and asserting that, terrorist is a terrorist and that no sort of political grievance, strategic calculations or any sort of, cause should be attributed to justify such acts. Now, some of the key arguments that what he has made is that, terrorism should be rejected, and any sort of false dichotomy of good and bad terrorists should not be given, number one. Number two, that all sorts of global financial intelligence sharing and tightening the enforcement of financial action task force is very essential to eliminate safe havens of terrorists, is number two, the key point that he has made. Three, he has also, made the point that, this sort of alarming speed at which terrorist networks sort of exploit advanced technologies, including sort of, encrypted communications, AI, deepfakes, that also needs to be, combated, is what he has mentioned. And also, he mentions that, any sorts of act driven by prejudice against any faith, that should also be seen with a universal lens, rather than just sort of attributed as phobias towards Islam or something. So the key points that have been made by the UN, India's representative to the UN, and again urging the community to reject all sorts of double standards and sort of meticulously work towards eliminating terrorism.
Right, Atul, thank you so much.